welcome to this video. Today I'm going to give you a tour of my new Google Sheets bill tracker template. This is the second version that I create. It's the extended version. This is a very detailed walkthrough. If you prefer to watch a shorter video, a quick tour, you can find the link to that in the description. So let's get into it. You're going to start off with a blank template, and the very first thing you have to do is you have to come into File, Settings, and select a country from this drop down and then a time zone from this drop down, and this is so that dates are updated properly. And then you're going to click on Save Settings. So once you do that, you're going to come into the Customize Here tab and you're going to follow these steps. So step 1 is optional, and it's just so if you're working on a different language, you're going to have to set your translation here for each of these labels. If you are working on a different language, you have to do that before you move on to step 2. So in step 2, you're going to select a month from the drop down and you're going to set a year in this cell. And this is going to be the first month of your template, and the rest of the months are going to be updated accordingly. So if you enter January and I come in here, my first month is January. If I enter March and I come in here, my first month is March, and it goes all the way over to February 2024. And then you're going to select if you want your calendars to start on a Sunday or on a Monday. And then you have these two lists. So throughout the template, you're going to be able to select a payment method for your transactions, and you're going to be able to assign categories to your bills. I suggest you fill just a few out so you get an idea of how it works, and then you can come back later and add more. And then you have a few more translations over here. If you want to change it to a different language, you do that here. If you don't like how one label is named and you want to change that for something else, you just come into this table and change the way this is named in your translation column, and it's going to get updated across the entire template. So you never edit any labels directly in the template, you edit them here. So once you did that and you customize your template, you're going to move on to the monthly transactions. And this tab is divided into two sections. In the fixed section, you're going to enter everything that you pay the same amount every single month. And then in the variable section, you're going to enter all of your bills that have a different amount due every single month. So you're going to be able to set a budget, but that's not necessarily exactly how much you're going to pay. So you're going to have a different amount due each month. So you have 3 things that you're going to enter to get started on both sections. So you're going to enter a default due date, just the day. Then you're going to enter the bill name, and then you're going to enter a default budget. So I'm going to do rent, and I pay that on the 15th. And as you can see, as soon as I entered that 15, this due date got updated on every single month. So every single month, I get a specific date for the 15th. And then if I add a budget, so let's do 1,500, then you get a budget every single month, and you get that same amount due every single month because this is fixed. I'm always going to be paying this every single month. I'm actually going to bring this back to January just so you can see the whole 12 months from January to December. And since January already passed, this is going to be highlighted in this blue color. That means that this payment is overdue. So once you check the box, it gets marked as paid and you get an amount paid up here. And then February is also overdue. Today is February 28th, so that's also overdue. And if I check this box, then it gets marked as paid. Now there's other options that you can add here, but first I'm going to jump into the variable section just so you can see how that's different. So for variable, I'm going to do my water bill. So that comes on the 3rd, and that's water, and that can be $30. So once I did that, I got a due date every single month once again. And once again, this is highlighting blue because it's overdue. So what you have to do is you have to enter an actual amount due. So I have a budget right here. That's the 30, the default budget that I entered for every single month. But when the bill comes, I realize that it's actually 34. So I can enter that 34, but it won't be marked as paid until I double click on the date paid and select a date. And once I did that, then it gets added up here. So if I move on to February, then this came for maybe 29. Again, this is not moving until I add a date paid. So that's how these two are different. Since this is fixed, all you have to do to mark it as paid is check the box. And to mark this as paid, you have to set a date paid. So you can enter an amount due once you realize what that amount is, and it won't be considered as paid until you double click here and select a date from the calendar. Now there's a couple other things that you can do. So you can assign a category to this. So let's do housing for rent. And then for water, I'm gonna assign utilities. And this list was created using the elements that I entered right here. And then you can also set a default payment method. So this is a payment method column. And if I select a default payment method, then it's gonna get assigned every single month. So I can do the same down here. I can do credit card, and it's gonna get assigned every single month. And then there's one extra feature that I added. So let's say you're gonna move out in August. So right now my bill payments are going all the way to December. But if I'm moving out in August, then I can select end date. I can set it as August 14. And since my due day, my default due day is the 15, if I come in here, I'm gonna see that August has an X. And that means that there's no payment expected here, there's no budget, there's no due date. So let's not have this as paid. I can also choose to start on February, for example, maybe on February 14. And then there's no payment expected here. And then there is a payment expected here, already paid it, and you get that every single month. So you can choose your start date and end date, and your budget will only be assigned to the range contained between your start date and your end date. And you can set just one of them, and it will run through the end of the 12 months. So starting on February, and since I didn't set an end date, it's running all the way to December. This also has the start date and end date features. So let's say it ends in May. So I come in here and I ended it in May 8th. So May 3rd will still be expected. But then June, July, August, that shows an X. It means it was canceled and it's no longer expected. So this is pretty much all you have to input in here. So white cells are expecting an input. These white cells are expecting an input. You check this box, you add an amount due, you enter a date paid by double clicking, and that's pretty much all that is expected. And then if you scroll all the way to the right, you get this summary. So you get a summary for your total budget for each bill, a subtotal for each section down here, and then the total budget for both fixed and variable sections, total paid for both fixed and variable sections, and then you get a summary of your payments for every month. And in here, you can also choose to add bills that you pay twice a month. So let's say you have a debt payment and you pay that twice a month. So let's do that in the variable section. So you have your student loan, and then you have your student loan again. So one of these you pay on the 1st, and then you pay the second one on the 15th, and each one is $250. And then the amount is not always exactly the same. So you set a date paid, and we do the same here. So maybe for some reason it was more or less. You mark that as paid, and this is how you can handle more than one payment a month. You can just set the exact same bill name and set different due dates, and then the template is going to be expecting those two payments. And then the things that you pay annually, every other month, every 6 months, quarterly, you're gonna enter those in the annual transactions tab. And the way this works is, let's say you have a gym membership, and then you have maybe a car loan, and then something else. And then you get a default due date. So let's do 23rd, the car loan, let's do the 15th, and then something else, let's do the 5th. And then let's enter a budget. Let's say I pay my gym membership in January. So I'm gonna check this box. And as you can see, that payment is going to be expected in January. Right now, February is empty, but if I checked this box for February as well, then a payment is also going to be expected here. And what's happening here is a due date is getting created using the default due date that I entered. A budget is getting assigned using my default budget, and then I'm expecting an actual amount due. So this works similar to the way the variable section works in the monthly tab. So it's expecting an amount due. So So let's add $30 extra, and it's not going to be marked as paid until you double click and set a date paid. Once you do that, it gets marked as paid, and you can also manually assign a payment method. And you can also choose to assign a category to each of these bills. In any month that you activated, the default due date and the budget is going to get assigned. And again, if it's overdue, today February 28th, if it's overdue, it's going to highlight in this blue color. So let's pay those bills. Then if I come in here, this is also overdue, so I could also pay this here. Double click, and then all those are paid, and then nothing else is expected. So if I was expecting all of these bills, you can check this box, and then I'm gonna be seeing those bills get activated on this month. And as you can see, whenever a payment is expected, this is going to highlight in this yellow color. For both the monthly transactions and the annual transactions tab, you're going to get a lot of default information added for you based on what you enter here. And you can, of course, override these formulas, these default formulas, and enter manual information. So the way you do that is, let's say we want to change these 3 rows. So for some reason, this is going to be different. So the first thing you can do is you can select either one cell or multiple cells, and you can delete them. So once I did that, the background color changed. So when you get this dark gray cell, it means you deleted the formula, but you did not add any information either. So that's something to bring your attention to. So if I wanted to add a different due date, I can just double click and select a different due date for the calendar. And in this case, it's highlighting in yellow because this due date doesn't belong to this section. So if I were to add it in May, the background turns white. So if I added another one in May for this, then the background is white. So this has a formula and the background is light gray. This does not have a formula, it's a manual entry, and the background is white. Now I can continue filling information here. I can also change my budget, so that can be maybe 6, 7, 8. Change my budget, and then I can also change my default amount due. So originally this column is using these values. So if I were to change this, whenever there's a formula here, what I change here updates my amount due as well, because this is a fixed one and it's supposed to be the same each month, so it's based on the budget. But if I delete the formula, I can also override this manually, so that can be 6, that can be 7, that can be 8. So as you can see, these are the things that I changed manually, and the background is no longer light gray. The same thing happens here. I can override this, and I can select different values, and the background changed to white. Now, if you want to make it really obvious whenever you have a manual entry where a formula used to be, you can select this checkbox, and everything that you changed manually is going to highlight in this color. Now, if you did this by accident, if you messed it up, you want it back, all you have to do to bring the formula back is click on any other row that belongs to that same section and column. So in this case, it would be any of this that is still automated. You should not touch this one, just it has to belong to the same column and the same section. You copy and you paste. And you can also select multiple at the same time and paste. And then the background turns light gray again. That means your formula is back. And you can do the same thing here. So I'm copying cells that are still automated in that same column and section, and I'm pasting them, and this is how I am bringing the automation back. And it works the same way down here. So you can change your due date, your budget, and your default payment method. You can delete this, and then you can change it manually. And if you don't choose to highlight your manually edited formulas, you can just uncheck this box, and manual ones turn white. These are empty and have no formula, so they are gray. So you can also find a guide to all this coloring in your instructions PDF, so in case you just want to glance at that very quickly. So same thing, if you want to bring it back, you copy one that is still automated from the same column and section, and then you paste it on one cell, or you paste it on multiple cells at the same time. And remember, for due dates, if you delete them and want to edit them manually, you can double click and select a date from the calendar. And then the annual transactions section works exactly the same way. So you have this gray cells right here that you can choose to override. So maybe I'm gonna take a bit longer on this one. I highlight it in yellow because it doesn't belong in this section, but it's fine if you want to keep it in there. It's just to bring your attention to it. And then I can delete this value and add a different one. And I can also choose to highlight my manual edits in this purple color, just so you know when you changed it manually and it's not going to be tied to the default values anymore. So if I change the budget here, it's not going to change here because it's no longer tied to a formula. But if I were to select this to bring the formula back, then it's tied again. And again, to bring it back, you copy a cell that is still automated and you paste, cell that is still automated and you paste. Make sure you are copying and pasting when you do this and not cutting and pasting, because you're gonna mess things up if you do that. So these are the only things that you're gonna edit. And then you have 3 automated sections. So you have your calendar, and the way it works is you're gonna come in here, you're gonna select a month from the drop down, and that's all you have to do. Everything else is automated, and you can also choose to sort your table by any of these values. So you could sort it by bill, and then your table gets updated by bill. You can sort it by due date, and you can also choose to sort in ascending or descending order. And then you're gonna see all of your bills in this calendar, and you can choose to only show bills that are pending. So if you uncheck this box, you're not gonna see the bills that are already paid in the calendar. So this is fully paid and you're not gonna see anything. So let's move to February, and then maybe let's unpay something. So let's remove the date paid. And if I come into the calendar, I'm missing the gym membership, and it's gonna highlight in blue because it's overdue. So things are gonna be overdue if they are due today or before. They're gonna be highlighted in this blue color, and you're gonna see it highlighted in here as well. And if I choose to show the paid ones as well, then you get of the ones that were paid, this is overdue, and today is highlighted in orange. And if you want your pending ones to show at the top, you can sort by status in ascending order, and the pending ones are gonna be shown at the top, or in descending order, and they're gonna be shown at the bottom. And then if you scroll to the right, you're gonna see 2 summaries. One is by category and the other one is by payment method, in case you're interested in that information. And you can choose to keep just one calendar tab, or you can choose to duplicate the tab. I just right clicked and selected duplicate, and you can name that something different. So you can do February, and that can remain as February. And then this one, I could rename it to January, and then I can select January. And I have a calendar for January and a calendar for February that are completely independent from each other. So you can choose to do that. And then you have your 12-month summary. So this is completely read-only. You don't have to edit anything. If you see a drop-down, you can play around with it. So you can order your tables using those drop-downs, or you can highlight a certain row using those drop-downs as well. But that's all you need to do, and that's optional. So you get a 12-month summary, a budget and amount paid and difference for each month. You get a summary for each section. You get a summary for categories. So you get a small table showing the budget, the amount paid, and the difference for each category. And then you get a larger table that shows a payment summary for each month and each category. And you can choose to sort these tables by any of these options. Just know that whenever something is not assigned, it's always going to be showing at the top. So this not assigned option, it's not going to move. These are the ones that are going to move. So if I do it in ascending order, then these options below, those are the ones that are moving, and this table is moving as well. So if I did it by amount paid in descending order, so I can get my highest payment at the top, then everything changes except for the not assigned ones. And then you get a payment summary. So if you wanted to highlight, for example, utilities, you can select it from the drop down, and then the utilities row is going to get highlighted just so you have better visibility. And then you can come into the payment method section, and it works pretty much the same way. You get your drop downs and you get your highlights. And again, the not assigned one stays at the top always. And then you get a bill summary. So as you might recall, we did student loan twice. So if you come into the monthly transactions, we have 2 rows for student loans. And in the end, the budget for both of those is $6,000. So if I come into my 12-month summary, you're gonna see student loan budget $6,000 all together in one row. And I have already paid $1,031. So if I come in here and I select these two, you're gonna see down here $1,031, which is the amount that you see here. And then you also get this table showing the payments for each month, and you can choose to highlight a specific one. So you can highlight student loan, for example, and if you come back, you're gonna see you paid $501 and $530 January and February. So if I come to the student loan, $501 in January and $530 in February. So that's how that works. And then finally, you have an all transactions tab. And this one is pretty much just gathering information from the entire template and just dividing those transactions into 2 separate tables, the pending table and the paid table. So if you want to sort it by due date in ascending order, these are all of my upcoming payments. I have this one for February that's actually overdue, and then my next payment is on March the 1st, March 15th. And then these are all my payments. So you can sort them by amount paid, by amount due, by date paid. And then the section for the current month is gonna get highlighted in orange. So this is just for your own reference. You don't have to enter anything here. And if you are interested in quickly jumping into the corresponding section, so this payment is expected in the section February of my annual tabs. So I can click or hover over this link, and then I click on this blue one, and I'm gonna jump into the corresponding section, and then I can enter a date paid. And then if I go back into those transactions, that one is no longer there because it was moved over here. Now, important to note, if you manually change a due date, for example, let's say this is due March, but for some reason I want to just get ahead of it, pay it in January, you can delete this automated value, double click, and I'm gonna select January 17. So this is actually gonna be due January 17. And if I come into January, you're gonna see that payment appear here. And then you're gonna see that it actually is found in the March section. So that's something that you can do if you wanna override manually for some reason and assign it to a different month. It is going to be shown in the calendar in its proper month. The section is gonna be highlighted just for your own reference. That doesn't mean that's wrong. If you choose to do that, it's totally fine. And then you can hover over here and click on this link, and you can jump into that section. So that's it for this video. I hope you liked it. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me and I will be happy to help you. And if you could give this video a thumbs up and subscribe, I would be really grateful. Thank you so much for watching.